Hello everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. In previous lesson, we talked about the volume and how do we use the formula to find the volume of the object. So today we're going to continue the topic. We still work on the volume. However, this time we are not going to work on the single object. So we're going to work on sometimes like 2 or 3 objects together to see how do we find the volume for different kind of 3D object. So let's check. When we say composite object, what does that mean? If you check this picture, for example, when we say, hey, I need a shed to store some stuff. And this one, as you can see, if you look closely, the top part is, yes, you're right, is triangular prism. Again, sometimes the students, it's easy to get confused about the triangular prism and pyramid. Pyramid, do not forget, is when you draw this, what you can do is you can draw like a parallelogram, and then you just put a point on top and you connect the point to all this. But since it's like you can consider there's must be one side in the back is this, so you can use a dash line to see this is actually the back side, and also you can just erase this part to make it like a pyramid. So just quick one thing is pyramid is a one point, like everything connect to one point, but triangular prism, there's a triangle in the front and triangle in the back. Okay, so this one is triangular prism, and the top one you can call this rectangular prism. Some students might argue, hey, the bottom is actually a square or a sided square. It's okay because remember, square is a special rectangle, so we can all call them rectangular prism. Okay, so today we are going to work on something like this, and sometimes we are even going to work on, you will see an example. If I have a like cube or a solid, I'm going to cut out some piece, and how do we find those kind of volume? So let's check examples. Let's check the first one. So the first one, I keep the formula here so we can always make the reference. When you do the practice, you can always come back to check the video and pause at this page to use this formula, or you can keep this as a notes to work on that. So this one, we need to find volume of this object. As you can see, there's actually 2 pieces here. So the top one is, this time if you, this is everything connect to one point. So the top one is pyramid. And the bottom one, as you can see, again, even you say it's 15, 15, some students still argue this is a square, but we can still call rectangular prism. Just because square is a special rectangle. So in order to find the object, in order to find the volume, we actually need to work on the top volume and the bottom volume, and then just like, composite figure, like 2D shape, we just need to add this volume together, and that's it. So let's do that. In order to show the process very clearly, I'm going to do each part individually. So let's say the pyramid. Which is, if we find this, is going to be 1/3. So remember, as we mentioned before, capital B meaning base area times height. So here, the base area meaning the bottom side of this pyramid, which as you can see is this shape. So some student might say, I don't know the measurement at all. Remember, this is prism, so that's why if this is 15, this is also 15. If this is 15, this is also 15. So the base for the pyramid is actually a square, same as this prism. So that's why we put this different color is, and the square, so if I draw the square here, if I know this one is 15, this one is 15, it's going to be 15 times 15 for this, right? So it's 15 times 15 and times the height. So remember, the height is a distance from the top point here to the center of the base. Do not think this is a height. This is not a height. Height must be the vertical distance. So which is 8. We already have that. Okay. So now we can just do the calculation here. You can always use mental math. Let's just quickly do here. So which is 1/3 times 15 times 15, which is going to be a square, and times 8. Let's see. So this is 600. Okay, and then let's work on the bottom part. The bottom part is actually a rectangular prism, as we mentioned before. Rectangular prism, if you check this one, you will see, oh, prism is always used capital B times H. As we mentioned, is base area times H. So for this one, rectangular prism, you can always use length times width times height. So it just times these 3 measurements together. It's going to be 15 times 15 and times 10. So 15, again, 15 times 15 is going to be 15 squared times 10. Okay, so it's 2,000. Do not forget the total volume here is going to be adding these two together. I mean, you can always write this to, in one step here, but just do not forget to put every single thing, every single calculation clearly, so you won't get it wrong. So the answer is 2,850. Remember, each measurement is inch. The volume is going to be inch cubed. Just because volume is actually, we multiply the measurement 3 times, so that's how it works. Now let's go back. Let's check the second example. Okay, so we need to find the volume of object rounded to the nearest hundredths. Let's check different color. So the hundredths, if we check this carefully, the top one is, the bottom one is like a triangle here, but there's a circle, so there's a cone. And the top one, so some student might say sphere, is actually it's not sphere. It's half a square, you're right. And what do we call them? We call hemisphere. It's actually very interesting because when we talk about a half circle, we call semicircle, but this one we call hemisphere. So hemisphere is actually half of sphere. Okay, so with these two pieces, we just choose the right formula to figure it out. So top one is hemisphere. So when you write down the index on the bottom, you can remind yourself what volume we're working on. This is hemisphere, so which one we're going to work on? This one, sphere. But one thing I want to remind you, sphere is this times r squared, r cubed, which is r radius, which is 10. If you do this one, you actually made a mistake because do not forget, you need to divide by 2 for the whole thing. Okay, so do not forget that. Hemisphere is half of sphere, so that's why you need to divide by 2. So let's put a red color here to remind you, do not forget to divide by 2. Okay, so now I just need to put everything in the calculator and finish the calculation. Let's clear everything so we can still see that. So 4 divided by 3, 4 over 3, 4 divided by 3 times, again, do not, just because we need to round later, do not just use 3.144 pi unless you're told so. You better use pi here, and times 10 to the third power. This little arrow here is to the third power. Whatever the answer, do not forget we need to divide by 2. Okay, so now we can just put the answer here. So some students might say, do I round it now? Personally, I always, keep the final step and write more digits here, more digits than the final answer, and we can round it at the end. Because sometimes you don't know what happened to the third or fourth digit when you round it. Okay, so let's work on the bottom. The bottom is kun. Again, kun is this one. Do not forget 1/3 times r square, pi r square. Again, r stands for radius, which is 10 square, times h. H here is the height, which is 15. Now all we need to do, put in the calculator, 1/3 times pi r squared, 10 square, times 15. And I always go back to check, did you type everything correct? And then go enter. So this answer is that. You can actually, if you don't want to write it, you actually don't need to, because we're going to find a final answer. So now, the final volume is going to be adding this together. Sometimes students might say, hey, I don't need to do the whole thing. I just go back to choose a certain one. So the top one is this one. So, and then we need to add these two together. So is this one. Okay, so this is going to be two pieces adding together. And the final answer is 3,665. Do not forget we rounded to the nearest hundreds. So that's why it's going to be 119. So it's going to be 19 here. And the third digit is 1. So we don't need to. So do not forget. Let's write it down together here. So we're actually adding these two volumes together. So let's write down 3,019. And centimeter to the third power. So that's volume. Okay, one more example, we're finished. So this example here, we need to read it carefully. A shape of a cylinder is drilled through the cube, as we can see here. So the inside part, since we drill through, as you can see, this is going to be the hollow. This is going to be empty inside here. So what is the volume of the remaining? Check the keywords here, remaining. Meaning what's the rest? So, and then round the answer. One thing I want to remind you is very different from the one we just mentioned. The one we mentioned before is actually we need to add together. But here, this one, if you drill through, we need to find the remaining. You actually cut out this one. So this piece is not part of volume. So how do we do that? So some student might say, we already figured out the answer. Yes, we need to do a subtraction. So let's do that. So I'm going to show the one step here. We are not going to break down. So we need to find the total volume. So the final volume, since we need to find the remaining, so we need to find a total one. And then since you cut out, so we just subtract this one. So the total one, as you can see, is actually a cube. We call all three sides are the same. So this is cube. So how do we find this? It's going to be 6 times 6 times 6. Sorry for the number, if you're a Christian. So 6 times 6 times 6. And we need to subtract this cylinder. So the cylinder is pi r square times h. So it's pi times, what is r here? The radius. But this distance we give the whole thing with diameter. So we need to times half of that and times the h. So some students might say, hey, what is height of the cylinder? We don't even know that. So if you check this picture closely, the cylinder, the top is and the bottom is exactly the same as this cube. So that's why the height is actually this one. So let's quickly finish everything. Again, you can actually find the answer by type everything together, but some student might wanna, oh, you know what? I don't like it. I just need to finish everything. Write down the steps. That's perfectly fine. And then pi times, you always is good to write down everything you wrote over there. to avoid the mistakes. Okay, so that's actually for the cylinder. So let's write it down here, 117.807. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract. So the good part is you can always just come here. You don't need to type everything. Subtract. Remember, because you are talking about the remaining, so that's why I subtract. Enter. So the answer is, go back to check. We need to round it to the nearest tens, meaning we need to keep one digit after decimal. So we check the second one, which is 9. Greater than 5, we round it up. So the answer is 98.2. And the unit is inches, so that's why it's inches to the third power. And this is our answer. Okay, that's all the 3 examples here. I hope this video is helpful, and you can always come back to check the answers or review the topic. Hope everyone stays safe, stay healthy. See you soon.